Stop chasing. Gain power. Marcus Aurelius's secret. The more you chase, the faster respect runs away. Have you noticed this? A man runs after applause and finds it slips through his fingers. A woman begs for attention and discovers she is ignored. The world has a strange law. When you hunger too desperately for something, you drive it further away. Chasing is the posture of the desperate, and desperation is weakness. Marcus Aurelius knew this. Though he sat on the throne of the mightiest empire, he never chased the things others thought defined power: praise, wealth, luxury, or favor. He lived a paradox. The man who had everything acted as though he needed nothing, and because of this, he gained more than emperors who grasped and begged. He gained what cannot be bought, the respect of centuries. Think of the modern world. You're told to hustle harder, post more, chase more, brand yourself, prove yourself. It looks like power, but it's slavery in disguise. Marcus would have laughed at the idea that a person must run endlessly to be seen. He wrote instead, "Waste no more time chasing what belongs to others. Turn inward, stand firm. The oak tree that doesn't bend to every wind will draw the weary traveler to its shade." And here lies the secret. Respect cannot be hunted down like prey. It comes to the one who builds himself into something unshakable. The river doesn't chase the thirsty, it simply flows. The sun doesn't beg to be seen, it simply shines. Marcus's secret was to be like these, rooted, steady, radiant, not because he desired respect, but because he desired virtue. And respect, like a shadow, followed. When you stop chasing, you begin to gain power. Not the noisy power of titles and coins, but the quiet power that makes others turn toward you when the world grows uncertain. This is the power of the Stoic. To be calm while others panic, to be content while others scramble, to be still while others run. In stillness, there is gravity. In gravity, there is attraction. And in attraction, there is the respect we all secretly crave. Now, who was the man behind this truth? Marcus Aurelius was not just a thinker, but an emperor, a man who bore the weight of armies, provinces, and plague. His life was an arena of trials that would have broken most of us. Imagine leading Rome through endless wars against invading tribes, all while pestilence tore through the population. Imagine watching friends betray you, generals plot against you, and even your own children grow unworthy of the legacy you wish to pass on. Most would have clung to power desperately, chased approval, drowned themselves in wine and pleasure to forget the burden. But Marcus did not chase. Instead, he turned each night to a journal we now call Meditations. Not a book written for the world, but private reminders to himself. How to remain steady, how to resist anger, how to accept death, how to endure without complaint. There was no performance in those pages. He wasn't chasing fame, he was disciplining his own soul. And yet, centuries later, that very refusal to seek applause made his words immortal. He gained what the most ambitious emperors could not: timeless respect. Picture him on campaign with his soldiers. The cold winds of the Danube cut through the camp, disease spreads, the men grumble. But their emperor shares their rations, sleeps under the same sky, writes by lamplight, not about conquest, but about virtue. He doesn't chase their loyalty with bribes or flattery. He lives among them with discipline, and they love him for it. That is attraction, born of steadiness. The truth is clear. Marcus Aurelius was not spared hardship. He was swallowed by it. And yet his calm became the center that held Rome together when it might have fallen apart. He didn't run after control, he embodied control. He didn't beg for devotion. His devotion to principle drew devotion from others. This was his secret, and it remains available to you and me. When we think of power today, we imagine shouting, rushing, demanding. Marcus shows us the opposite. Power is quiet, patient, dignified. It does not need to chase because it already possesses itself, and a man who possesses himself cannot be ignored. Chasing is the trap of the unstable soul. The Stoics saw this clearly. When you stretch your hands toward things outside your control, you put your peace in chains. The mind that chases is like a dog tied to a cart, dragged wherever it goes. It is no longer master of itself, but servant to what it desires. Marcus Aurelius warned himself of this in his writings. Don't waste life in pursuit of shadows. Don't hand over your freedom to things that can be taken away in an instant. Look around today, and you see the same trap everywhere. People chase likes on a screen, not realizing the hunger only grows. They chase wealth, never satisfied, for there's always someone richer. They chase love by begging for attention, not understanding that neediness strangles affection. The more they run, the weaker they become. For every step of the chase is an admission that you do not yet have what you need. It is a declaration of lack. The Stoics called this slavery to externals. When you pin your happiness on things you cannot command, you are no better than a prisoner. One algorithm change, one lost job, one lover walking away, and your whole world collapses. Marcus saw it in Rome too, senators begging for influence, generals clawing for glory, citizens restless for pleasures. None of them were free, and because they were not free, they were never respected. It is not events that disturb us, Epictetus said, but our judgments about them. If this is true, then chasing is simply the mind's misjudgment. You believe the thing out there holds your peace, so you run after it. But it never delivers what it promised, because the problem was never out there. It was always your judgment. The Stoic instead turns inward and says, if I must run, let me run toward mastery of myself. If I must desire, let me desire only virtue. For this alone cannot be taken. Marcus understood that chasing corrodes dignity. It makes you look outward for your worth, and the more you search, the less you find. True authority, true calm, begins when you let go of the chase. When you stand still, the world finally sees a man who is not desperate, and desperation repels, but steadiness attracts. This is why attraction belongs to the one who is stable within himself. Marcus Aurelius lived with a gravity that pulled others toward him, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. He didn't beg his soldiers to love him. He endured their hardships beside them. He didn't chase philosophers to honor him. He absorbed their wisdom and lived it. Respect grows naturally in the presence of someone who cannot be shaken by fortune. The Stoics had a word for this: apatheia, a state of inner equilibrium, freedom from being jerked around by passion or fear. This is not indifference in the cold sense, but mastery, a man so rooted in reason that storms may rage, yet he remains unmoved. People are drawn to this the way ships seek a lighthouse. In a world addicted to frenzy, calm is magnetic. Think of how Marcus Aurelius must have appeared to those around him. While the empire cracked under war and plague, he did not run wild with schemes, nor did he collapse into despair. He returned again and again to discipline, to virtue, to reason. This steady pulse of character is what pulled loyalty toward him. His presence was a refuge. Even enemies respected him, for they knew he was not driven by greed or vanity, but by a higher law within himself. You and I see this even now in smaller moments. In a meeting full of noise, all eyes turn to the one who waits, who speaks only when it matters. In a crisis, the person who does not panic becomes the anchor. We do not run after those who chase. We are drawn to those who stand firm. And so it was with Marcus. Attraction followed his stillness. Loyalty followed his restraint. Respect followed his indifference to being respected. This is the paradox. The man who does not seek respect gains it most of all. Desire is a chain, and the more you feed it, the tighter it binds. Marcus Aurelius taught himself each day not to crave what was beyond his control. He reminded himself, desire only what is given, only what belongs to you, only what the universe already lays in your hands. The rest is noise. The Stoics knew that uncontrolled desire makes slaves of kings and beggars of men with full tables. He who cannot master his wants will never command respect. Desire whispers in many forms. It says, if only you had this title, then you would be respected. It says, if only this person loved you, then you would be whole. It says, if only you had that wealth, then you would be secure. But the Stoic sees the lie. Respect born from desire is shallow and fragile. It depends on someone else's hand granting you what you chase. The moment it is withdrawn, so too is your dignity. Marcus Aurelius turned instead to restraint. He knew that by wanting less, he became more powerful. A man who needs nothing cannot be bribed, cannot be seduced, cannot be destroyed. Imagine a leader who doesn't beg for allies, but builds such strength within that others naturally stand with him. Imagine a soul who doesn't pursue affection, yet radiates such character that affection pursues him. That is the discipline of desire, to choose what to want carefully, and to make sure those wants cannot be taken by fortune. To live this way is to flip the world's values upside down. The masses chase and they grow weaker. The Stoic withdraws from the chase and he grows stronger. Marcus knew this, and because he mastered his desire, he commanded respect without asking for it. Yet Stoicism was never only about withdrawal. It is not enough to avoid chasing, one must act rightly. The discipline of action is what made Marcus not only a philosopher, but a ruler. He did not dream in the abstract while Rome burned. He rose each morning to the duties laid before him. He judged cases, led campaigns, comforted the people, managed the state. He did not act out of hunger for glory, but out of service to principle. When others act from ego, their deeds carry the stench of self-interest. But when a man acts from virtue, his deeds shine with a purity that others can trust. People are drawn to aligned action, the kind that springs from an inner compass, not from frantic grasping. Marcus Aurelius proved this again and again. He could have ruled through fear, but he ruled through example. He could have drowned himself in luxury, but he chose simplicity, and in those choices his actions spoke louder than any speech. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. These words of Marcus capture the heart of Stoic action. The world does not need endless promises, arguments, or pursuits. It needs men and women who simply live the standard they speak of, and when they do, respect follows naturally. Think of the power in this. People argue, debate, chase validation, but one calm example of action silences all the noise. The soldier who sees his emperor share the same hardships does not need to be persuaded to fight. The citizen who sees his ruler live modestly does not need to be told about virtue. Action is persuasion without words. This is why Stoics act differently. They do not run after applause, but they still build, they still serve, they still fight when duty calls. The difference is their motive. They act not for themselves, but for the whole, and in that alignment lies their authority. Marcus Aurelius led armies and governed an empire, not as a man seeking respect, but as a man fulfilling his role. And that role, lived faithfully, brought respect greater than any chase could achieve. The mind is the gatekeeper. Everything you feel, every impulse to chase, every fear of being overlooked, it all enters because the mind grants permission. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the power to decide which thoughts deserve to be embraced and which should be dismissed. Marcus Aurelius practiced this with vigilance. He reminded himself daily that the mind is sovereign and nothing can disturb it without its own consent. Chasing begins in thought. A person sees something, then says to himself, "I need that." It is not the object itself that compels the pursuit, but the judgment attached to it. Marcus would stop the thought before it rooted. He would ask, "Is this within my control? Does this serve virtue? If not, it is not worth my assent." This simple practice gave him power that even armies could not grant. Think of flattery. One man receives praise and lets it intoxicate him. He becomes addicted, chasing compliments, performing for the crowd. Another man receives the same words but filters them. He thanks the speaker yet remains unchanged, unmoved, because he knows his worth is not measured by applause. The first man is a captive, the second is free. Marcus was always the second. The same is true of despair. When plague struck Rome, others saw only doom. Marcus saw an opportunity to practice endurance. He did not assent to fear's exaggerations. He trained his mind to accept what was given and to act with reason. Respect is gained when you show mastery over your thoughts, when others see you are not carried away by every emotion or rumor. The one who assents only to what is true and just becomes a rock in a river of instability. Now contrast this with the modern world of endless chasing. Hustle culture is celebrated as if running endlessly in circles proves strength. Social media feeds on insecurity, whispering that your worth rises and falls with likes, followers, or fleeting relevance. Corporations reward those who burn themselves out for titles, only to cast them aside when the next candidate appears. It looks like ambition, but it is servitude. The person who chases recognition is enslaved by it, always fearing its withdrawal. The Stoics would call this a sickness of the soul. To tie your peace to the approval of strangers is madness. To measure your value in algorithms or office gossip is to build your life on sand. Marcus Aurelius saw the same sickness in Rome. Citizens chased spectacles in the arena, senators chased influence in court, generals chased triumphs in war, and yet in their chasing they grew weak, for they never learned to stand alone. Contrast that with the Stoic path. Inner calm attracts more than frantic motion ever can. Think of a room full of people talking loudly, trying to prove themselves. Who do we notice most? The one who does not scramble for attention. The one who sits quietly, composed, waiting to speak with clarity when the moment demands. In their calm, there is power. In their restraint, there is respect. This is why hustle culture fails. It confuses motion with meaning, noise with strength. The Stoic knows better. Stillness, self-possession, and measured action draw far more loyalty than a lifetime of desperate striving. Marcus Aurelius reminds us by his example. The emperor of the known world, besieged by enemies and disaster, never rushed, never chased. He moved with the calm rhythm of a man who trusted his own principles. And that calm was more magnetic than any campaign of self-promotion could ever be. So ask yourself, in a world addicted to speed, will you join the chase, or will you stand still and let respect find you? Marcus shows us the choice is ours, and only one path leads to power. Power is not only in what you do, but in what you refuse to do. The ability to say no is one of the greatest sources of strength. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth. Surrounded by luxury, he denied himself extravagance. Surrounded by sycophants, he ignored flattery. Surrounded by opportunities to indulge, he chose discipline instead. This is not weakness. This is sovereignty. For every time you say no to excess, you say yes to dignity. Think of how rare this is. Most men crave to be seen as generous, so they give beyond reason. Most crave to be admired, so they parade their wealth and power. But Marcus understood that respect does not grow in extravagance. It grows in restraint. To sit at a table laden with food and reach only for what you need is a form of command. To walk past praise without needing it is a form of mastery. To refuse to chase when the world is running mad is a form of leadership. The Stoic no is not harshness, it is clarity. It says, "This is beneath me, this does not serve virtue, this does not make me strong." And people respect those boundaries more than they respect indulgence. The emperor eating simply while Rome expected excess was not despised for it. He was admired. His refusal to be ruled by appetite made him appear greater than those who let appetite rule them. In your own life, the same law holds. Say no to gossip, and people will trust you. Say no to panic, and people will lean on you. Say no to vanity, and people will begin to see the substance beneath the silence. It is not always what you add to your life that builds power, but what you subtract. Marcus Aurelius proved that saying no is a secret weapon, and through it, respect is earned without chasing. Yet the greatest test of this strength comes in crisis. Anyone can seem calm when the sun is shining, but what happens when the storm arrives? It is in chaos that the truth of a person is revealed. Marcus Aurelius led not in times of peace, but in times of plague, invasion, and betrayal. The Roman Empire trembled under forces that might have shattered it, and yet its emperor stood firm. He did not scream, he did not panic, he did not chase illusions of control. He returned again and again to reason. This calm in crisis was the magnetism that drew respect to him. His soldiers did not follow him merely because of rank, but because he endured alongside them without complaint. When pestilence ravaged the empire, he did not flee to the safety of a villa. He remained in Rome, facing the suffering with his people. While others whispered of omens and doom, Marcus wrote to himself, "All this has happened before, and all of it will happen again. Nothing is new under the sun. Endure it as men before you endured it, with courage and with calm." Respect is born in these moments, when the crowd panics and you do not, when the masses despair and you hold fast. People are drawn to those who are steady when everything else trembles. This was the emperor's secret. His calm became a fortress, not just for himself, but for those around him. His restraint and reason steadied an empire. You do not need to rule a nation to practice the same. When crisis strikes your life, loss of work, illness, betrayal, your reaction defines you. If you chase solutions in frenzy, if you cling and beg and scramble, you will lose not only the respect of others, but also your own. But if you stand still, if you meet chaos with reason, if you endure with quiet strength, you will discover something astonishing. People begin to look to you as their anchor. They are pulled toward your steadiness as ships are drawn to the harbor in a storm. This is why Stoics attract without chasing. In the silence of their calm, in the firmness of their no, in the steadiness of their crisis response, respect gathers around them like iron filings to a magnet. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth, and through it he became not only emperor in title, but emperor in spirit. Every man needs a fortress, but the Stoics taught that the strongest one is not built of stone, it is built within. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, the place inside yourself that cannot be conquered unless you surrender it. Armies may invade, fortune may shift, sickness may come, but if your citadel is intact, you remain free. The man who does not chase builds this fortress brick by brick, not with weapons or walls, but with reason, virtue, and self-command. Marcus reminded himself often, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you fill your mind with envy, greed, and fear, your citadel crumbles. You are defenseless before the world, but if you color it with discipline, with courage, with justice, then you are unshaken. Respect flows naturally to the man who lives fortified, because others instinctively trust a fortress that holds firm in every season. The inner citadel is not about isolation. Marcus did not retreat from the empire to hide from responsibility. He led Rome, judged disputes, commanded armies, but all the while he never allowed external storms to breach his walls. He trained himself to remember, what is outside me is not truly mine, but my response to it always is. By this, he maintained sovereignty in a life that could easily have enslaved him to fear or indulgence. You can see this in his writings. Time and again, he returns to the image of retreating within himself. When the world pressed heavily upon him, he closed his eyes and entered the fortress. There, he reminded himself of what mattered, of what was eternal, of what no emperor, no plague, no betrayal could touch. That is the citadel of the free man. That is the soil where respect grows, not the frantic scrambling of one who begs to be noticed, but the deep roots of one who has made peace with himself. History gives us not only Marcus, but a line of Stoics who proved the same truth. Those who do not chase are the ones we admire most. Cato the Younger resisted Julius Caesar not because he thought he could win, but because he refused to compromise his principles. Even Caesar, his enemy, could not help but respect him. He stood firm, immovable, even unto death. Respect clung to him because he would not barter his soul for survival. Epictetus, born a slave, had every reason to chase freedom, status, comfort. Yet he turned inward instead. He accepted his chains, but refused to let them touch his mind. He built his citadel within and became so powerful in spirit that emperors later sent their sons to learn from his teachings. The man who owned nothing became a master to men who owned everything. This is attraction without pursuit, respect without demand. And then there was Marcus himself, embodying both ruler and philosopher. His soldiers adored him because he did not ask them to endure what he would not endure himself. His citizens admired him because he ruled with justice instead of cruelty. Even those who opposed him could not deny the dignity in his calm. He showed the world that true authority comes not from grasping, but from standing firm. Why do these figures remain luminous centuries later? Because they lived what others only spoke. They did not chase admiration, yet admiration became their inheritance. They did not chase immortality, yet their names remain while countless ambitious men are forgotten. The Stoics prove by their lives that respect is a byproduct, never a target. Live with virtue, build the citadel, refuse the chase, and respect in time will come of its own accord. Relationships reveal how deeply the poison of chasing can run. Many ruin friendships and romances because they cannot stand still. They chase affection, they cling to approval, they beg to be noticed. The Stoics knew this weakness destroys bonds faster than hatred. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the value of friendship and love, but he also reminded himself never to depend on them for his own worth. To need another's constant reassurance is to become their servant. To give without begging in return, to love without clutching, that is where dignity is found. In friendships, chasing often takes the form of manipulation. One demands attention, the other resents it. But the Stoic friend is different. He is steady, present when needed, absent without bitterness. He gives counsel, loyalty, kindness, not because he hopes to secure repayment, but because it is the right thing to do. People are drawn to such friends because they are rare. They do not drain, they do not demand, they simply embody strength. Romantic love, too, becomes sick when it is ruled by chase. The desperate lover loses their magnetism, for need is never attractive. But when one stands firm in character, faithful, patient, disciplined, love is naturally drawn to that flame. Marcus's wisdom applies here. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In love, the best way to gain is not to scheme, but to embody the qualities worthy of love itself. When you hold to virtue, you will attract the kind of partner who values virtue. In every relationship, the rule holds: you cannot demand respect, you must deserve it. And to deserve it, you must stop chasing it. Build your inner citadel and let those who recognize its strength come near. Those who cannot see it were never meant to stay. The same principle governs work and success. Modern ambition often looks like running in circles, chasing promotions, chasing recognition, chasing titles. But the Stoic approach is different. Do not aim at the shadow of success. Aim at excellence itself, and let success follow where it will. Marcus urged himself to do every act of his life as if it were his last. There is no room in such a mindset for chasing applause. There is only room for doing the task at hand with full attention and integrity. Consider the difference between two workers. One spends his energy trying to be noticed, carefully crafting every gesture for approval, restless if praise does not come. The other spends his energy on the work itself, focusing not on being seen, but on being useful, skillful, honest. Which of the two is more likely to rise? In time, the one who chases applause fades away, for no one respects desperation. The one who serves quietly, faithfully, gains the respect that endures. Marcus Aurelius could have clung to his throne, chasing after popularity to secure it. Instead, he chose to rule justly, to act with duty, even when unpopular. His success was not measured in fleeting applause, but in the lasting stability he gave his empire. And so it is in our lives. When you detach from outcome and focus on principle, people will be drawn to you. They may not always cheer, but they will respect. Modern stories confirm this. The calm leader in a company attracts loyalty because employees see steadiness. The artist who refuses to chase trends but remains true to their craft gains admiration long after imitators fade. The athlete who trains for mastery rather than applause inspires not only fans but peers. In every field, the same law of Stoicism applies. The more you chase recognition, the less you find it. The more you embody excellence, the more recognition comes without asking. To stop chasing in your work is not to be idle. It is to labor with purpose, with clarity, with devotion to something higher than vanity. And when you live this way, success is not something you run after. It is something that follows. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He reminds us that the surest path to greatness is to forget greatness entirely and focus instead on virtue. That is how respect is earned. That is how power is gained without pursuit. The Stoic way is not built on lofty theories alone. It is made of daily practice. Marcus Aurelius did not rely on inspiration that came and went like the weather. He created a rhythm of discipline, a pattern of exercises that trained his mind to remain steady. If you want to stop chasing, you must do the same. Power is built not in grand moments, but in the quiet habits repeated each day. At dawn, Marcus reminded himself of what he was about to face. Men driven by ignorance, selfishness, pride, and greed. He did this not to grow bitter, but to prepare his mind so that when such behavior appeared, he would not be surprised. This morning reflection stripped the world of illusions. Instead of chasing admiration or fairness from others, he chose to anchor himself in his own virtue before the day began. You too can begin your mornings this way. Expect the world to test you and then choose not to be shaken. Journaling was another of his practices. Each evening he wrote down what he had felt, where he had faltered, where he had been strong. This act is not about performance. It is about honesty with oneself. In writing, you catch the small moments when you began to chase approval, comfort, distraction. And in catching them, you learn to cut them off at the root. It is the surgeon's scalpel for the soul. Silence was also one of his weapons. By withholding words, he withheld assent to impulses that would have betrayed his calm. In a world that shouts endlessly, choosing silence becomes a sign of strength. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every rumor needs correction. By practicing restraint, you conserve your dignity. Finally, Marcus practiced the evening review. Before sleep, he asked, "Did I live today according to virtue? Did I chase what was not mine, or did I stand in my own power?" This habit sharpened his awareness day by day. It can do the same for you. With such practices, you shift from chasing the world to mastering yourself. And in that mastery, respect follows naturally. But the Stoic must remember this great truth. Respect is never the goal, it is only the byproduct. Marcus Aurelius never wrote, "Seek admiration." He never prayed, "May I be honored by men." Instead, he asked only to remain just, disciplined, and faithful to reason. And yet, because he lived this way, admiration became his inheritance. This is the paradox the world struggles to understand. If you want respect, you cannot seek it. Respect is like a shadow. When you turn your back on it and face the sun of virtue, it follows you wherever you go. When you chase it directly, it flees. This is why the Stoics taught that externals, fame, fortune, applause, are indifferent. Not evil, not good, but meaningless unless joined to virtue. To make respect your target is to miss it. To make virtue your target is to gain respect without asking. Marcus was not remembered because he sought memory. He was remembered because he lived truthfully in his own time. His calm, his discipline, his compassion were not calculated performances, but the natural fruit of his inner citadel. And for that, centuries bow to his name. So in your own life, do not fix your eyes on respect. Fix them on the work of the soul. Do not measure your days by how others respond. Measure them by whether you lived according to reason, courage, justice, and self-control. If you do this, then even if no one notices today, the respect that matters will come in time. Respect from those who also live by principle, and respect from yourself, which is the highest of all. At the end of his life, Marcus Aurelius revealed the deepest lesson of all. Even in his final days, when sickness overcame his body, he did not cling to life with desperation. He accepted death as another task appointed by nature. Accounts tell us that he spoke calmly to his son, urging him not to fear. The emperor who had carried the weight of Rome laid it down with the same dignity with which he had carried it. There was no chasing after immortality, no frantic desire to stretch his years. He departed as he had lived, steady, measured, at peace. And yet, in refusing to chase immortality, he achieved it. His words have survived empires. His example has endured beyond kings and conquerors whose names are now dust. This is the paradox of Stoicism. The man who grasps for eternity is forgotten, while the man who accepts mortality becomes eternal. Marcus did not seek to be remembered, but by living truly, he is remembered still. The Stoic king's death was not a tragedy. It was the seal on a life lived in accordance with nature. He had faced wars, plague, betrayal, and loss, but he had never surrendered his inner citadel. His final act of calm acceptance was the ultimate proof that his philosophy was no mere theory. It was his very being. His soldiers mourned, his people grieved, but his legacy was not in their tears. It was in the example he left behind, that real power comes not from chasing life, but from embracing it fully, including its end. And so we arrive at the heart of his secret. Stop chasing, and you gain power. Power over yourself, which is the only power that truly matters. Power to endure when others collapse. Power to stand firm when others compromise. Power to attract respect without ever asking for it. This was Marcus Aurelius's gift to us, not an empire of land, but an empire of thought that each of us can inherit. Think of what this means for you. If you stop chasing applause, you will begin to act with clarity. If you stop chasing wealth, you will begin to build true security. If you stop chasing love, you will begin to live in a way that draws love to you naturally. The law does not change with time or culture. It held true for a Roman emperor. It holds true for us today. Respect is not a prize to be hunted. It is the shadow of a life lived in accordance with virtue. When you stand upright, when you hold firm to principle, when you master your desires and your mind, respect comes of its own accord. Those who see you will know you are not desperate. They will sense your gravity, and they will be drawn to it. So let Marcus's life be a mirror. Do not waste your days chasing what will not last. Do not beg for recognition. Do not scramble for attention. Do not sell your soul for comfort. Build your citadel. Discipline your desires. Govern your actions. Guard your ascent. Then you will discover a truth the world does not want you to know. When you stop chasing, respect begins chasing you. This is the Stoic path. It is not easy, but it is clear. Walk it with courage. Live it with constancy. And remember the emperor's secret. The strongest power is the one who stands still while the world runs mad.